here we are in 1690, almost through the event phase. Savoy's entering the war. Well, there's nothing I can do there until I put the pieces down, so that'll hold there. Increase William War commitments. The Brits have the advantage right now with the Atlantic. So, oops. So, they might have been interested in increasing the commitments. They did not. Both sides rolled a 5, so actually a victory point is gained there. I forgot about their having the advantage, even though that was in my decision making. Marlborough's gone. And again, this is so likely to happen that I assume he's going to come back. This is just the his falling out with William thing, as opposed to a permanent removal from No Peace Without Spain. That's not spelled out in the rules. And if you did not understand the situation, you might not make what I think is the correct decision, but who knows, you know. Now event cards. The Allies were forced to go first. They got a hold card. This allows them to jump in and move first on a turn without worrying about playing the cards. However, the French pulled Death of an Alliance General. Let's see who we kill. We get a 1. That's going to be Lorraine. Well, I don't think Lorraine's on the board yet. He gets promoted this turn. Could he be dead yet? I don't know. It says if the affected leader is already on its minor leader side, this card has no effect. I feel like he's dead. But maybe he shouldn't be dead if it had happened on one of these turns, or even at this point, since he's not flipped over yet officially. But I'm going to accept that he's dead, and I'm not going to promote him. I'm going to leave this out. I'm going to go deal with something. And then we'll do the reinforcements. And again, the Allies have to go first. The reinforcements are down. Allies, a little bit more commitment in London here. Which, there's reactions to every action. That created, the French decided to throw some Jacobites into Edinburgh, just to make it a little harder to bring Britain into the game. Once they capture, what's easily available to them there and deny the Jacobites control in Britain, then they can concentrate on Ireland, try to get resources up. It seems like a good thing, but it's a long-term plan. Likewise, down here, we increased our commitment in Spain. Well, the French did the same with the Catalonians showing up there. And with Victor Albadeas here, Boufflers showed up here. The new reinforcements for the French actually showed up under James. I feel like I have more French armies in operation. So I have Vauban here, which, if he can get a siege of, say, Namur or something going, that would be kind of cool. Over here I've kind of neglected, because there aren't a lot of points to be gained there. The only really important thing is Bavaria. And with Eugene and Maximilian facing me there, that doesn't seem like I'm going to be able to gain a lot of ground there. I guess the only really uncontested force right now is Austrians moving down into Italy. Yeah, I mean, with Savoy in the way, that's going to be hard. Now, Savoy, the rules for Savoy are not clear. They're not clarified anywhere in the rule book itself. Basically, there's what's in the winter quarters phase, right? Determination of Savoy neutrality, 1696 or later. However, and this is a problem this game has, which the original No Peace Without Spain didn't have. If you flip into the player aid, you can find where the actual rule is. It's not in the rule book itself, and I find that disturbing. Here it says, starting in 1696, or at the time of Bourbon successfully besieging Turin. Well, that should be there. Any player controlling at least one savoyard, that may have been stated in one place in the rule, but not where I could find it. Fortress may turn Savoy power neutral. So, my feeling there is, if we do actually take Turin, we can force Savoy out of the war before 1696. Otherwise, just taking one of their fortresses is sufficient. We'd like to do that. There's no question. No naval commitments at all. And that puts us to the campaign phase. Let's see if my software is ready. And a couple of screw-ups. First of all, I had an extra French core here. You can't have 3 full-strength core in a mountain space. The stacking rules of this system really caused me problems. That whole full-strength versus half-strength type thing. It's not just a total number of strength points. It's not anything that's intuitive. It's very hard to grasp. For me. It seems like some kind of mental block. Anyway, I moved the unit because whatever, I must have put it there under some circumstances. And then, let's see. I did the bidding. The Brits chose not to go early. The French played a 2. They may have made a mistake. I did my first move. Vauban pulls his way into Namur. My second move, I thought I was going to move here, but now I'm looking, wow, I've got him pinned here. I could move here if I had enough. If I had 3 moves, I could do other things. I don't want to hit William, though. And I don't want to move Luxembourg to here and leave all of this up to James for reaction. So I'm not quite sure what to do with my second action. It's not too big a deal. I don't think I had any. Yeah, I did have a 1. But the hard part is I don't have anywhere else I terribly want to do anything. I can recuperate a unit. I'll recuperate one of James's units. It's almost always a good idea to rebuild a unit. And so that'll be the French side of the turn, or of that pulse or whatever. Side, William chases Vauban out. He actually was at a disadvantage here, but it's so necessary to prevent the siege from going. It was worth a shot at it, I guess. Although with so many leaders around, there's a lot of danger at William's position there. And the Spanish Netherlands is going to be degraded. And we moved over here. Now, this is not a siege. I just haven't spent the movement point. I'm actually avoiding Mirandola here. Moved up through Cremona. I want to get my forces together. I'm going to siege for Verua. I think that's Verona, but I'm not sure. And then try to push into the French territory. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do that all this year, but it takes a while to move your forces around and get them where you want them to. Side of things, Catinat started recuperating some forces. He's better at that than Vauban with his 5 command rating. But it doesn't undemoralize Vauban unless I pick him, so that I can get them rested the next time. The second action was an attack into Antwerp. Both not Luxembourg and William made attempts to intercept. William succeeded. The line was not forced, but Luxembourg was still a good enough commander. He managed to get 6 hits. 5 hits on the Allied force. That's enough for a famous victory. Drove them back. If you have enough core, you could be in trouble. And they drove back to Nijmegen, where they're a little bit safer, but it looks like that Spanish Netherlands area is mostly going to be taken. Right, this doesn't look good for the Allies at this point. Guys gather here so they can start recovering, rallying forces or whatever, but that's kind of a fool's errand just in terms of time. Meanwhile, and they also marched up on Edinburgh. But meanwhile, you can see James and Catinat have moved their forces for sieges of Tournai and Namur, and good old Luxembourg actually succeeded in his siege of Antwerp. That siege gave 2 victory points over here, and also an economic point because that's a rich space. So, I guess we're back on the Allies, trying to figure out how to staunch the bleeding at this point. At the end of the campaigns, everything except Liege has fallen here. We're up to, 4 of these. 2 plus 2? Should be 2 plus 3. Should be up, oh no, we're up to $6. Where's the extra buck? Good question. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. Okay, I forgot about. I took Ostend already. So we're up to 6 points, and we got the victory point total down to 4. We get that down to 0. This game's over. We never get to see the the interaction. And I've tried so hard to, try to keep the alliance alive, but they're in a tough position. This is France's strong point at this moment in time. Now, they haven't gained much in Spain, which is important because if the game's going to go long into the no peace without Spain, I would like to get Spain over to the Bourbon side. That could be a real problem if they're not. Over here, the Allies failed everywhere. Probably didn't have enough troops either, but we'll pretend we didn't know that. Yeah, I know. Famous Victory goes away. The Demoralized are going to go away. But there's another siege here. I'm going to pull out Turin instead. That stays. It's really hard for some reason in this game to deal with the counters. I'm not quite sure why. Most CDGs, maybe it's because they use different shaped counters or size counters or something like that. Most of them, it seems like you can keep track of stuff a little bit more easily. One of the mechanical problems with this game I've had is fiddling with the stacks of counters. Maybe they're too slick. I really don't know. I don't know what the reason that I'm having so much trouble is. London is not Bourbon controlled. Savoy cannot go neutral. No Bourbon peace. So this is the end of this turn, along with a little bit of cleanup I gotta do. And I'll probably be back sometime tomorrow afternoon because I gotta take a nap and go dancing tonight. Yay. I guess I'll touch on a little bit more before I actually sign off here. The French are doing incredibly well right now with the quick capture of the Spanish fortresses and, well, the victory point total. They captured William. He must be ransomed, so that's 2 victory points for someone. It was probably not worth it, but yes, they haven't made much ground on Spain, but that's okay if they continue to win up in the Netherlands. Which means the alliance is going to have to focus on trying to defend that, but the victory point total is so lousy for them that they may have serious problems because picking off victory points with the sea zones, picking off victory points possibly in Spain or in Germany or something like that, where they're easy to get. So too much commitment up here to prevent the automatic victory that might be happening, to prevent the fall of Liege, which would be yet another terrible thing to happen. Well, too much of that means that too much effort up there means that there's going to be an easier time for the French to operate elsewhere. Now, the Allies do have Eugene here. They have superior force here. They're about equal here. So I don't know if there's that many points easily available to the French, even if I focus up here. And, the French aren't really in a good position to gain points elsewhere. So maybe we'll survive this. But this is one of the things with the game. It can be very, very swingy, and you can kind of build up a steamroll, though. Like, I feel like the French situation with their high economic points, that's they've got stronger forces at this point, and slightly. And now they've got the economic advantage or equivalency in terms of everything. So that's it looks pretty dominant right now. It could well go the other way, on the other hand. Or it could swing hard towards the French again. One big battle can change the nature of the turn and can swing, several victory points. You know what? I think I forgot the 2 points for the famous victory. Yeah, that's looking much, much worse. It's going to be hard to keep them down to 2 points. I played No Peace Without Spain. The first time I played it, I think it went very quickly as well. I played it very recently, and it went almost the entire game. It went to where the French were able to get a give British concessions and get a major victory out of it and end the game in a victory that way. And that was very, very late in the situation. Like, it was 17, 11, or 12. And, it was just It had swung though. There were times when it looked like the French were going to win a major victory, well, an automatic victory by capturing either Amsterdam or Vienna. There were times when it looked like the Alliance had huge point advantage. They were, cooking up in the 25 region or whatever in the victory points, which on that game, as opposed to this track, 30 is the auto victory for the Brits. So they were within striking range of it. I think this one looks pretty questionable for them to hold on. No. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, made up a bunch of ground without videoing at all. It's fine, but luckily this time I have enough remembrance. Williams was able to do it in sort of a straight line. Williams Bar, nobody put any special expenditures in it. It went in favor of the Allies, the Brits in specific, so they got a victory point off that. For events, the English got the Great Turkish War, pulled a couple of Austrian armies out until 1694. If it's past 1694, it comes back the next turn instead. Scotland rises or is pacified. Now this is a weird thing. The countermix does not come with enough Jacobites. And so Claverhorn or whatever shows up supposedly with 2. There's only 1 in reserve, and the other one, if there had been 1 here, I would have given it to him, but as far as I can tell, unless I'm missing a counter somehow, it's possible, but I just clipped it. I don't remember dropping any, but who knows. Anyway, he's only coming in with 1 extra unit instead of the 2 he would normally get. But that puts more pressure on the English situation. Then for troop deployments, well, I think I got a free unit because I control London. It's part of the scheduling here. And I got, forgot to put a staff officer down, I think, for William last turn. I got William back. The Allied commitment is this vain hope that they can prevent victory points from going over to the French. We're not in the strongest position in terms of the forces that are on the board. I don't see a lot of places where I can gain points. Here it's particularly troublesome because the mountains are very difficult to fight in. Just because the stacks are so small for the most part. But I ended up putting Maximilian down here. He's not going to get any bonuses, but maybe he can push into Lyon while we're holding a stalemate here and give me a couple points there, maybe. Let's see. Build up in Barcelona by the Allies. Maybe I can make some ground here, but that's unlikely. Elsewhere, my hope is that I can defeat what is really a superior force at this point. And the biggest thing is I actually probably have to get, well, maybe not, but there's a threat here, which is that the French built their 2 fleets to full value, which of course meant they didn't have many points to put down, but they didn't have all that much stuff to build anyway, I guess. And each of those gives them a shot at getting a victory point for taking the Atlantic or the Mediterranean. And that, when you're down to 3, a 3-point difference, that might be enough. And especially since King William's War can be a point that swings one way. This is an interesting thing, though. This could drop down to 0 during the turn, and it won't end the game. And there's no padding below 0, unlike on the Allied side, where I think the game ends at 30 or something. There's padding above 30. I know that's true with No Peace Without Spain, where there's more padding on the chart. The Alliance can actually run up the score. The French aren't allowed to do that. Anyway, I guess we'll start the campaigning. Keep doing this damn thing. So I got these Spaniards down here. I got 4 of them. Oh, look, it's a mountain. I can't have 4 full core there. And I've caught myself doing it over there. I don't know how it's happening, It seems to keep happening to the Allies for some reason. So these are officially overstacked. I'm going to try to give them the points back. But this is a constant problem I have with this game. The stacking limitations on it are really hard for me to comprehend in the sense of understand them on the board. This idea that I can have not a specific number of points and not a specific number of core in a space. Neither one of those is true. It's some sort of halfway, and somehow my brain just does not accept that, and it's really been a problem. I have to figure out a way to give the Spaniards, the Allies, an extra point worth of stuff. We'll see where I do that. But a jockeying for position, and the Allies moving up here to lay a siege, but moving into here to set one up. The French played the Allies played a big card, try to break up the siege here at Liege. Well, Luxembourg intervened and brought 3 strength points in. I think more than that would have been overstacking, which you can't even voluntarily try to do. Even though there'd be room for half core, he can't bring the troops in to starve them or whatever. William's defeated again in another famous victory, which is 2 more victory points. And with the bonuses for siege, with the likelihood of one of these going over, it's very, very likely that's going to hit 0. The French may want to hold off on their fleet plays until towards the end, just to make sure the Allies have less of a chance of getting a victory point, less of a chance that the French value goes below 0, basically, which it can't. And that's going to put us over on the French side. Siege of Lille successful. It drops it to 0, and I'm kind of losing points there because that was a 2-point thing. Boufflers moved up here. Vauban has now moved here after the siege, and Catinat attacked here and got himself wounded. French are having a real problem. Their leader's dropping off, driving Maximilian back here. The problem is the timing situation. I'm going to have one chance to get back whatever the Brits can gain on their final card play. And they're actually, and this is, the victory point track is weird where it's got a hard limit there. The Allies maybe don't want to succeed in their sieges until William tried to intercept here. Apparently you can intercept when demoralized. Until sort of their last card play or whatever, because that's the least likely time when the French will be able to do it. Now they have some pretty good chances though with Vauban and Boufflers sieging, especially Vauban. But both of them have a +1. There's the famous victory, gives them another +2. So they got a fair chance of taking 1-point zones. In fact, I don't know if they can fail, because they'll get at least a 4. So from the pluses now, Vauban has the reroll ability as well, for whatever that matters. But it looks to me like whatever the French last card is pretty much guaranteed to generate them some points. So it's probably not the case that I can sort of use that edge of the thing. But if we weren't in that position, if that famous victory hadn't happened or whatever, it's a situation where the French don't want to succeed in any of their siege rolls until their last card, and the Brits kind of would be in the same position. At this point, the Brits kind of want to run up the score, but I don't see how they're going to do it, or the Allies want to run up the score. I don't see how they're going to possibly do it. They've only got 2 cards left. This game is essentially over. Coming down to is Victor Amadeus here is sieging Briançon. He can get 1 point off that. We're at 0 now because Boufflers and Vauban both succeeded. Even if I get that, the French have a big enough card that they can sail 2 navies out. Both have probably a slight advantage because they get +2 here, but I think with the controls it may end up a +2 for both sides. So they can cancel that out. Now I could have gone down for Toulon, and a lot of bonuses for doing that, but on one roll it's really unlikely to take that out. In fact, I would need a 6. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, it's just a 1. So we'll try the siege here. We need a 4 or better. And we get it. We would have gotten the 2-point bonus, which would have been sufficient to probably hold things off. For the French, let's see what we can do. Let me calculate out the naval battles. Do the Atlantic one first. That's the more important. Active player. French are at +2. Inactive. +1 for control. They have London. That puts them to +2. So yeah, we're both at +2. And I believe it's rerolls if they're tied. The French win 1. Boom. The points are down here. In Gibraltar, it's going to be the same, or in the Med, it's going to be the same thing because I believe Gibraltar is the controlling space. Yeah, in the Mediterranean. We'll see that. And the French win that one as well. So they had an extra point to spare if it came to that. This is game over. It's a successful victory by the French. They managed, to get some lucky attacks. I was screwing up with the stacking continuously. I got to decide if I'm going to restart or just put this aside. I've played No Peace Without Spain, and I got a fairly exciting long game of it. The first time I played it on video, it was a stupid short game. This is a stupid short game this time. The games have a tendency to go that way, just because you can get yourself in an advantage situation and kind of steamroll a lot of points in it, or get yourself in a position where you're threatening to either win by points or to win by an auto victory. And I almost feel like the game of No Peace Without Spain that I played that ended up fairly, tight, it had a lot of situations in it where the game could have ended pretty quickly, especially in a pro-French victory. But there was a threat even of possibility of Paris falling. So it's very, very easy in this system because of the way the victory is assigned, because of the way the combats happen and how random they can be. It's very easy to get a situation where one side or the other is just dominating, and things can swing back, but I'm not sure how often a game of this is going to get you to the transition. We'll see. I'm not really willing to do a review until I make my decision as to whether I want to set it up again and play it, or play something else, because honestly, I'm a little fatigued. I had an exciting game of No Peace Without Spain, but first of all, in that game, I noticed partway through that I was doing the stacking wrong with those full strength core, and I was like, well, screw it, man. I can't really fix it because I've been playing it with both sides this way, and there's no way except by starting over. So I tried to be disciplined and do it this way, but I had several cases where that little rule was causing me mechanical problems. I almost want to discard that rule because it's just so annoying. I understand why it's there, and it does something interesting, but it's so annoying in play and my mental situation that I think whenever I try to play by it, I end up miserable, and I end up really disliking the game. And that's probably what happened with No Peace Without Spain. The first time I played it is I said, okay, I'll try to play it correctly, partway through or whatever, and it just didn't, it didn't work because it is such a burden of annoyance to handle for me. It may be fine for some people, and I'll tell you, if you like No Peace Without Spain, You're gonna like this probably. It's a little bit rougher around the edges, but you know, it's the same system and you're trying to do the same kind of things, but it's a somewhat different situation. All right, let's send this one up. What are we? 1691 and it's over. Woo! 4 years.